We're ready? Okay, we are on the record. Today is November 15th, 2024. This is an appeal hearing on the notice of ejection exclusion issued to Mr. Pickering. That notice was issued on October 17th of 2024. Mr. Pickering filed timely appeal of that notice, and so we're set for hearing today. Kind of an entry appearance from the city, please. All right, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Pickering. How are you today?
I'm all right.
Good.
Oh, that's kind of loud, ain't it?
It is loud, yeah. All right. Any preliminary matters, Mr. Cash? Yep. All right. Mr. Pickering, we held a very similar hearing last Friday. We will follow that same procedure. Do you have any question about that?
Well, ma'am, it wasn't last Friday. It was Friday before
Or
that.
2 weeks ago. I apologize, yeah. Do you have any question about the procedure we'll be following?
Well, I kind of do. Don't know if it's going to make much difference or not, but like the last time, you only allowed him to show part of the video that he wanted that he felt that would help the case.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I proved that they wasn't legal to do that, you still sided in their favor, which, like I said, I understand because they're hiring you.
So do you have a
this.
question about the procedure?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I have evidence that I would like to submit too, but I don't know how to go about doing that. And I probably don't have time now today to do it because, you know, I'm not an attorney. I wouldn't know how to do that.
Okay.
You know, other than just like say, hey, I got this, here it is, you know.
All right.
You know, but of course, because it's not according to policies and stuff like that, which you guys try to put over law and everything, you know, it's just something I don't understand. I mean, you know, I have a right to be defended in court, whether, you know, I can afford it or not. This is technically a informal court hearing, you know, but I can't afford an attorney, so I don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
So now y'all can do whatever y'all want to do to me, and it's y'all's word against mine.
So, sir, I will follow the protocol as set forth in the Englewood Municipal Code. You'll have the opportunity to present any evidence that you would like. If that evidence is relevant, then it'll be admitted into the record, and I will consider that evidence. So.
Well, considering it and actually taking it, because
I will consider it. That doesn't mean I agree with it, but I will consider it. I consider any evidence submitted before me. I'm required to do that as a hearing officer. So I will determine in the end whether that evidence is relevant and how it would impact my decision. So every hearing officer and every judge, that's our job. That's what we do. So, all right, city, have an opening statement? All right, you want to call your first witness? Okay, thank you. Good morning. Good morning. There is a button to turn that microphone on. It's on the faceplate, the speak. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. All right. Why don't you raise your right hand to hereby swear or affirm under penalty of perjury testimony you're about to give will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief. All right, have a seat. All right, Mr. Cash, your witness.
Good morning. Can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
It's Eric Murphy, M-U-R-P-H-Y.
And are you currently employed?
Yes.
And who's your employer?
The city of Englewood and the Englewood Police Department.
And how long have you worked here?
A little over 11 months.
1 month? Okay, thank you. And you said you're a police officer. On a day-to-day basis, what are some of your job duties?
Traffic control, traffic enforcement, calls for service, things of that nature.
Okay, thank you. Were you working on the evening of Monday, October 18th, 2024?
Yes,
Do you remember where you were working?
at the Englewood Police Station.
Okay, and I'd like to draw your attention to approximately 4:30 p.m. on that day. Were you still at the Englewood Police Department?
I was.
And did you notice anybody in particular?
Yes,
Who?
Mr. Pickering.
Okay, and I think I saw you gesture, but do you see him here in the courtroom today?
Correct, yep, sitting right there.
Okay, hearing officer, may the record reflect the witness has identified the appealing party, Mr. Pickering.
It'll still reflect.
So did you approach or interact with Mr. Pickering in any way?
I did.
Can you just explain a little bit about your interaction?
I met him in the station lobby for about 25 minutes or so, just talking about why he was in there and my reasoning for contacting him.
Okay, to your knowledge, why was he there?
He wanted to speak to specifically the chief of police, who currently wasn't even in the state of Colorado, and he was just repeatedly calling dispatch.
Okay, so you mentioned he was calling into dispatch repeatedly. How many times did he call into dispatch?
44 times.
Okay, and to your knowledge, this was all to request to speak with the chief of police?
Correct.
Was Mr. Pickering informed that the chief of police was not present?
Yes.
Was Mr. Pickering asked to leave?
Yes.
Did he leave when he was asked?
Not initially, but eventually.
Okay. And you said you spoke to him for about 25 minutes, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then what did you tell him? Or do you have any more details you can provide about your interaction with him in particular?
We talked about quite a few things, but what initially I think got him to leave was me expressing that every time he picked up the phone, he was distracting and taking away a dispatcher from answering calls for service and potentially emergency calls for service.
Okay, and did he continue to contact dispatcher after you told him that?
No.
Okay. So after you told him about that, what did you do? Did you do anything else, or how did the interaction end?
I basically just walked away after I made that last statement about distracting the dispatchers, left the lobby, and then went upstairs to dispatch to check to see if he had left, and he had left.
Okay, gotcha. And did you record your recollection of this event anywhere?
I did.
And where did you do that?
My body-worn camera.
Okay, did you write or contribute to an incident report about?
I did.
Okay. Let the record reflect, I am providing a copy of the incident report to the opposing party as well as the witness, and then I'll be handing a copy to the hearing officer as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Murphy, if you can just, I know it's long, you don't have to read the whole thing, but if you
Yes.
just take a moment to look at it and review it for a moment, and then just let me know when you're ready. Okay, do you recognize this document I handed you?
I do.
All right, what is it?
It's my report from the incident, my supplement report.
Okay. Does it fairly and accurately represent the supplement that you drafted?
It does.
Okay, hearing officer, at this time, I request that the incident report is entered into evidence as Exhibit 1.
All right, I will mark it as Exhibit 1. Mr. Pickering, any objection?
Not at this moment.
Thank you. Exhibit 1 will be admitted.
Okay, so you testified that Mr. Pickering was repeatedly calling dispatch, eventually left after he was asked, but not initially. But are you aware of any action that was taken against Mr. Pickering based on this incident?
Not on this specific incident, no.
Okay, are you aware, or do you know whether an exclusion was issued to Mr. Pickering based on this incident?
Yes, it actually was, yes.
Okay, and did you draft the exclusion notice itself?
I did not.
Do you know who did?
Yes.
Who?
It'd be Officer John Holler.
Okay, no further questions at this time, thank you.
Mr. Pickering, do you have any questions of Officer Murphy?
Good morning, sir.
Thank you.
On this, date in question, okay? If there was a crime committed, how come I wasn't arrested right there on the spot?
From who? From me?
From Englewood PD, period. I mean, if I was committing a crime on that date, Okay, because I was never given an exclusion notice that day.
Correct, I didn't give you one.
Well, no, right, okay. So what I'm saying though is my question is if I committed a crime on that date, why was I not arrested on that date?
I don't have an answer for you.
Okay, could it be because you guys were trying to look for something to charge me with? You was fishing?
I was not looking for anything, hence why we had our interaction, and then I left the lobby, and so did
And-
you.
Okay.
If I wanted to arrest you for anything, I would have, but I just wanted to talk to you to get you to leave the lobby. And I wasn't the main officer on this, hence why I only wrote a supplement report.
Okay, and now another question is, is you said I called, what, 44 times?
Correct.
Okay, now, if I recall right, I had an appointment here like within an hour, hour and a half of me initially approaching the phone to call dispatch to try to have someone come down and talk to me because I needed a copy of a paper. Okay, now, I explained to dispatch, hey, I'm kind of in a hurry. I gotta show up over here at the courts, here in Englewoods, so on and so
Sir,
forth.
do you have a question?
Well,
You're testifying, you just need to ask a question. Can you form that into a question?
yeah, okay, so by me coming in for a legit business, okay, and always giving a runaround. I went in, asked the ladies at the front desk, which they never seemed to want to help me, okay? But anyways, I try to handle everything cordially and everything like that. When I can't, then I have to start asking for supervisors, correct?
That would be the next step if you're not getting the answers that you want from,
Or the help I need, or, right,
Yeah.
okay. So, and that's what I was trying to do, okay? I was trying to get the proper, because I knew that dealing with some of you officers who I've dealt with in the past wasn't helping me, so I needed to speak to the head person, okay? And
Mr. Pickering, please ask a question, you're testifying. And you'll have the chance to present that information and testify later if you'd like to. Now's just the time to ask the officer questions.
I mean, apparently you didn't think I committed any crimes that day because you didn't arrest me. You even said you didn't arrest me. Correct?
I did not arrest you, no.
Okay, so apparently I didn't commit any crimes that day.
That's not
So-
for me to decide.
Well, but you're testifying. You testified under oath.
Sir, he testified that he did not arrest you.
He
said-
also testified
Wait,
everything he
don't-
said.
Do not
would-
interrupt me. I'll let you answer in just a moment. He said he did not arrest you and that his goal was to talk with you and just have you leave the premises. That's what his testimony was.
But he also swore that he wouldn't lie under oath.
Right, but
And
you've asked him if he arrested you and he said no. He said he wasn't looking to arrest you. Do you have a follow-up question based on those questions?
why was I arrested at a later date?
Like I said, I'm not the initial responding officer. So outside of our interaction that day and then my supplement that I wrote that night, I had no knowledge of anything that went on further.
But didn't you say that you initially made contact with me?
I
spoke
made-
to me and then tried to get me to leave the premises?
Correct, and outside of that occurrence, and then my supplement report that I wrote that night explaining what we had spoken about, I had no knowledge of anything going further. I'm not the main officer on this, hence why I only wrote a supplement. So anything else that happens to this is without my knowledge.
All right, and didn't I also, in our conversation, did I not bring up the fact that I have a constitutional right to be there to film y'all, and did I not educate you about federal law saying that if I ask to speak to a specific manager, because like the captains, lieutenants aren't doing nothing, so if I ask to speak to a sergeant or a chief, because even though the one was out of state, there still has to be someone there to fill in for him to hold everybody else accountable that needs to be biased or non-biased to fill in for him until he gets here, correct?
You did speak about that, and then that's
Okay.
also in my supplement report, speaking about you explaining your constitutional right to requesting and speaking to the chief of police.
Right, rather be an acting chief, rather be, the chief, rather be a captain that he appointed chief until he get, whoever, you know what I'm saying? And I do try to abide by the laws. That's why, a few years ago, I was over there
Sir?
every weekend.
Just limit this to questions, please. You'll have a chance to testify if you'd like to at the end of the city's case.
All right, well, I guess there's no further questions.
All right, thank you. Any redirect? All right, Officer Murphy, thank you. Can he be excused? All right, thank you. City's next witness?
Good morning. If you could please just sit in Chelsea's council chair over there. All right, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Have you raised your right hand? Do you hereby swear or affirm under penalty of perjury testimony you're about to give is true, will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, your witness.
Hi. Good morning. Can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
John HOLEher, HOEHLER.
Okay, thank you. Are you currently employed?
I am. Turn the mic on.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a button on that faceplate that is speaking. I just want to clarify the spelling of your name, HOEHLER?
That's correct.
Okay, I put a D in there, so I want to make sure that was right. All right, thank you. All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no worries. Now that the mic's on, apologies for that. I'm just going to restart real quick. So can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
John HOLEher, HOEHLER.
All right, thank you. And are you currently employed?
I am.
And where do you work?
The Englewood Police Department,
And how long have you worked for the Englewood Police Department?
about 25 years.
5 years, okay. And what is your role there?
Patrol officer,
All right, and on a day-to-day basis, can you just walk me through some of the things you do?
just general law enforcement duties, traffic enforcement, respond to calls for service, accidents, a whole gamut of things.
Okay, thank you. And do you recall if you were working on the morning of Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024?
Yes, I was.
I'd like to draw your attention to approximately 7:15 a.m. on that day. Do you remember doing anything in particular?
Yes, I went out with, there was an individual, we knew as Zeph Pickering, who was out in the lobby, police, the entryway in the police department. I accompanied Sergeant Wright out there.
Okay, and do you see Mr. Pickering in the courtroom today?
I do.
All right, can you gesture towards where he is?
He's seated in front of me.
Okay, hearing officer, may the record reflect the witness has identified the appealing party, Mr. Pickering.
Also reflect.
So did you prepare the notice of exclusion?
I did.
Okay, and have you since reviewed the notice of exclusion?
I reviewed it at that time, yes.
Okay, may the record reflect, I'm going to hand a copy of a document to opposing party, to the witness, and to the hearing officer.
You can.
Thank you. I have a quick procedural question. Let's see. Did Officer Murphy give you his copy of Exhibit 1? Do you have that, or did he walk off with that?
Yes, he may have walked off with that.
Okay, let's just make sure, I'm gonna keep the exhibits that you give a witness, I'm gonna make sure I keep those, and then I will take those and I can give the actual original exhibits to the city clerk's office for holding. Okay, thank you.
Understood, thank you. Or I guess procedurally, Mr. Holder, is there an incident report in front of you up there? Or any other
There's
document?
The public property
There's
notice
not.
of ejection.
There's not, okay, gotcha, okay, thank you.
Just Exhibit 2.
Okay, so I'm continuing on, Mr. Holler. Do you recognize the document that I handed you?
Yes,
What is it?
it is a public property notice of ejection exclusion.
Okay, and does this fairly and accurately represent the notice of exclusion that you drafted?
Yes,
All right, hearing officer, at this time, I request the document you have before you is entered into evidence as exhibit number 2.
Mr. Pickering, any objection?
Well, where is exhibit number 1 at?
Well, Exhibit 1 is the police report you have right there.
This?
Sir, that's Exhibit 1.
Okay.
That's been admitted.
Okay, well, because it's not marked, that's why. This is
Right,
exhibit
yeah,
2.
I'm marking these, so you could certainly mark it. That's your copy. So if you want to
Okay.
mark it, you can do that. Exhibit, or the proposed Exhibit 2 is this notice of ejection exclusion dated October 18th and October 23rd. Do you have an objection to this being admitted as Exhibit 2?
I do.
What's your objection?
Well, because if everything happened on the 17th, why weeks later am I given an exclusion?
You're welcome to address that issue with the officer and argue about that in your closing argument. It'll be, Exhibit 2 will be admitted. You're challenging the substance of the document, which you're welcome to do. To do that, it will be admitted, and you're welcome to ask the officer questions about that, and you're welcome to testify about that as well, when you testify, if you choose to do so.
All right, and Mr. Holler, what type of violation is identified by the notice of exclusion?
this was a Tier 2 violation for a criminal act of obstructing government operations.
Okay, and specifically, is there a specific criminal law that is noted or a state law that is noted on the notice of exclusion?
Yes,
All right, and can you tell me what that is?
it is Title 18-8-102, obstructing government operations.
All right, and what was that violation on the exclusion notice based on?
It was based on an incident that occurred on October 18th. Mr. Pickering had arrived on the 23rd, and I was advised of what happened. And at that time, I arrested Mr. Pickering for the violation that occurred on the 18th.
And how were you advised of the incident that happened on the 18th?
Sergeant Wright was aware of it and informed me before we walked out.
Okay, and have you seen or contributed to an incident report based on the incident that occurred on the 18th?
Yes,
Okay, hearing officer, may it reflect that I'm going to show the testifying witness Exhibit 1. Because the other copy got taken away, I'm going to show it on my laptop.
sure.
If that's okay.
he's out there if you need that other copy.
Oh, he is sitting right there, yeah. We could-
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that, and that'll just make it a little bit easier.
Be a lot easier for everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and may the record reflect that I am now handing a paper copy of Exhibit 1, the incident report, to the testifying witness.
Thank you.
All right, so take a moment to review that. You don't have to review or read the whole thing, but just let me know once you've had a chance to kind of flip through that.
Yes, I recognize this document.
Okay, what is it?
It is, well, it's a couple of different incident reports that was completed. First one was completed on the 18th, it looks like, for the original incident in which Mr. Pickering had contacted our dispatch center 44 times in an hour from the lobby phone demanding to speak with the police chief, who was not available.
All right, and is this the incident that your exclusion notice delivered to Mr. Pickering on October 23rd was based on?
Yes.
Okay.
And I completed a supplemental report on the 23rd, which is part of this.
Okay, thank you so much. With regard to your supplemental report, what did you state in your supplemental report?
I'm sorry, I didn't,
Oh, sorry. What was the substance of your supplemental report, or what did you contribute to the incident report?
that was the contact that I'd had with Mr. Pickering that morning, the subsequent arrest and charge and transport to jail.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to turn your attention back to Exhibit 2, the exclusion notice itself. If you can, I direct you to the portion of the exclusion notice that says exclusion, and then underlined are the words "see back page." Do you see what I'm referring to?
Yes.
Okay, so when it says "see back page," what is that referring to?
There's some information regarding the city's policy as well as the tier 1, tier 2 violations, and the individual's rights for hearing, appeal, things like that, that are on the back of the individual's copy.
And based on your memory of the event, did the exclusion notice that you handed to Mr. Pickering include that back page?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then, all right, so now I'm going to address the standards of behavior a little bit with you, officer. So the city's exclusion process, is it based on the City of Englewood's standards of behavior policy?
Yes.
Okay, and can you explain just what is the standards of behavior policy?
Just basically to have a business environment that's courteous and, free of harassment and things like that.
All right, thank you. And may the record reflect, I am going to hand a document to the opposing party, the witness, as well as the hearing officer.
I have one from last time.
Okay, well, let me just give you one more, just so you have everything I've printed out.
Thank you.
Okay, take a moment to review that document, please, officer, and then let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, what is the document?
This is the Englewood Police Department standards of behavior
Okay,
policy.
and to your knowledge, does this fairly and accurately represent the city's standards of behavior policy?
Yes.
Okay, hearing officer, at this time, I request that the document you have before you is entered into evidence as exhibit number 3.
Ms. Pickering, any objection to Exhibit 3?
No.
Thank you. Exhibit 3 will be admitted.
All right, and directing officer to the standards of behavior itself, does the standards of behavior include a purpose statement anywhere?
Yes, at the top.
And can you read what the purpose of this policy is?
Purpose statement, the City of Englewood serves and conducts business with customers and community members in various settings and facilities. An atmosphere of welcome, courtesy, respect, and business is maintained on city property. These standards of behavior protect the rights and safety of visitors, employees, and volunteers, prohibit unreasonable interference with others, lawful use of city facilities, and preserve city equipment, facilities, and grounds.
All right, and to your knowledge, does this policy apply to all city-owned facilities?
Yes, it does.
And would this include the Englewood Police Department?
Yes.
All right, and the standards of behavior, do they include 2 tiers of behavior that violate the policy?
Yes.
Referring again to just the standards of behavior, is violating an applicable criminal law listed as being prohibited by the standards of behavior?
Yes, it is.
Do the standards of behavior indicate what tier of violation that is?
It is a tier 2 violation.
Right, and do the standards of behavior indicate that there is a process for handling violations?
Yes.
What is this process?
As far as whether or not if the individual is in violation of one of those, to serve the exclusion notice, or also the individual does have the right to an appeal.
Okay,
After
yes,
the
thank
fact.
you. So you're testifying, just to clarify, that the standards behavior, the process for handling violations of the standards behavior is the ejection/exclusion process?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. And this refers to the exclusion notice that you served Mr. Pickering, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And why was Mr. Pickering excluded for 90 days?
Well, at that time, I was, because it's a tier 2 violation, And I was unaware whether or not he'd had an exclusion, a specific exclusion in the past. I was aware of the fact that he had been trespassed from that police department for similar behavior at a prior time, but I don't recall whether or not that was an actual exclusion at that time.
So you're aware he may or may not have been trespassed in the past, but that you issued a 90-day exclusion because, to your knowledge, his behavior was a Tier 2 violation of the standards of behavior?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. And from where was Mr. Pickering excluded?
From the Englewood Police Department.
And is this where the original incident occurred?
Yes,
All right, thank you. So turning your attention back again to the notice of exclusion we've been on. You served this notice of exclusion, is that correct?
yes,
And are you authorized to serve exclusion notices?
yes.
Why?
I'm a sworn Englewood police officer.
Right, and by what method of delivery did you give Mr. Pickering the exclusion notice?
I completed it and served him when we were out at the Arapahoe County Jail.
Right, so did you hand deliver it to him?
I did,
Right. Did Mr. Pickering sign the exclusion notice?
yes.
Where?
He signed it under the recipient acknowledgement of receipt section.
Right. And did you sign the exclusion notice?
I did.
And where did you sign that?
I guess I just put my name on it, but not my actual signature, but it was issued on 10/23/24 at noon by Officer J. Holler.
Okay, so just referring you again to the section of the exclusion notice that says issued on date by city employee, name/title. Are you testifying that Officer J. Holler, which appears to the right, is your writing?
Yes,
All right, thank you. And then the last thing about the exclusion notice is, if I can refer you to the section that says incident day, comma, time, that row, there are two dates that appear. October 18th, 2024 at 4:16 p.m. and October 23rd, 2024 at 7:13 a.m. Why are there two dates listed here?
I listed the initial date, which was the incident for which he was taken into custody for calling dispatch or picking up the courtesy phone there in the lobby 44 times in the period of about an hour. And I also listed the 23rd because at that time he picked up the phone 4 times in a matter of a few minutes, demanding to speak with a supervisor at that time.
Okay, so are you testifying that the top date was the date of the incident the exclusion notice is based on?
Yes,
And then the bottom date is the date that you served the exclusion notice?
yes. And there was, like I said, there was some additional that I added to the original report with him picking up the phone after first requesting somebody, and then when they didn't immediately respond, he would continue to pick up the phone.
Okay, and where did you, I guess is this information you're testifying to regarding the incident communicated for you from the sergeant as well as the incident report? Or
Yes.
okay.
That's correct.
Thank you, no further questions at this time.
Ms. Pickering, any cross-examination, sir?
Good morning again, sir.
Morning.
You had stated to the gentleman to my right that on this exclusion notice on the back, that these are the policies of Englewood as well as the standards of behavior, correct?
No, it shows the tier information, and it has the information that for your right to appeal and instructions for that. I don't have a copy of what you're looking at
Oh, I'm just
specifically.
looking at the backside of the.
Well, your copy has that, mine does not.
Okay. Well, anyways, if my memory serves me correctly, you had stated that the policies say that, that these are the policies to appeal, all this, that, and the other, okay? Now, the standards of behavior, okay, I would also state once again in this hearing that, okay, these are policies that the city came up with, correct?
Yes,
Okay, now, my question to you, sir, would be, does policy trump law?
Does policy trump law?
Yes, sir.
Not necessarily, but you're allowed to enact policies specific, specific rules
Okay,
of conduct, absolutely. Does it trump a law? No, not necessarily, but it's an
So-
addition to.
so are you or anybody that works for the city here, legally allowed to make laws and to pass laws?
The city, yeah, absolutely.
Really, I thought y'all were,
City council can pass ordinances. Absolutely.
I thought you guys was just here to uphold the law and to enforce the law, because that's what the government's for up there in the White House, is to enact law and create law and then pass it down to y'all to enforce.
Well, there's a lot more to law than just the White House.
Well, no,
So,
well,
as far as me, do I write law? No. I enforce the law. But you asked if city
well,
folks can pass laws, and yes, it can be passed in this room as an ordinance.
so have you ever enforced policy instead of law?
Policy as far as rules? Is that what you mean?
I'm
If you're asking whether or not I enforced a rule,
okay,
a rule that was enacted
hold
by
on,
the
hold
city.
on.
Mr. Pickering, let him answer and then you
Well,
can ask the
I was
follow-up.
gonna
Restate your
word my,
question? Okay,
right,
go ahead.
right, I was gonna.
Okay, go ahead.
reword- Okay, just give me a minute, I gotta
No, go ahead.
catch up,
Take your-
I gotta
take your
catch
time.
up my train of thought.
Take your time.
Okay, am I an employee of the Englewood PD?
I'm sorry, you're what?
Am I an employee of the Englewood PD?
Nope, not that I'm
Okay.
aware of.
Okay, so if you guys create policy, that's for who?
As for policy, for us, for rules, you mean, for?
If Englewood Police Department creates policies, who are those policies for? Are they for the employees of the Englewood Police Department, or are they
Generally,
for the
yes.
general public?
Yes, employees, yes.
Okay.
If you're talking
so-
about Englewood police policy.
Okay, so that would go straight up to city policies. If the city mayor or the city, manager creates a policy, that's for city employees.
Not
That's not for
necessarily.
general public,
Not necessarily.
especially when the activity at hand is constitutionally protected.
Sir, this is something you can argue about in your closing argument.
Yes,
You're welcome to do that. I'm going to have you move on with your questioning.
well, but my question is, okay,
I understand your question, sir. I'm going to let you argue about that in closing argument. I'm going to have you move on with your questioning as to relevant facts that the officer can testify about and provide information about from these dates of incident. He didn't draft these standards of policy. He's testified he enforces these. I understand you don't think he has authority to do that. You can make that argument. I'm going to have you move on with your questioning.
all right. So if I committed this horrible crime of calling 44 times, okay, why was I not arrested that day?
Because apparently you left prior to that, and.
But I still committed a
I
crime.
can't answer that. I wasn't there.
But
I don't know.
But a crime's a crime. I mean, when the average citizen commits a crime, don't you guys usually put a warrant out for their arrest or go and arrest them, especially when you know where they live?
Depends on the situation, circumstances, things like that. There's times when you don't make an immediate arrest. There's times when you seek a warrant for an arrest. It just depends. In this case, this was an arrest made based on probable cause. Rather than going and knocking on your door, you arrived there that morning. We were going to go to your door that day or seek a warrant, one of the two. You arrived that morning. I was informed by Sergeant Wright that there was criminal charges based on your conduct, and I subsequently arrested you.
So there was no reason why you guys didn't arrest me on the day of questioning,
I can't answer that, sir. I was not there.
but you arrested me.
I did, yes.
You
Mr.
said,
Pickering, your question has been asked and answered.
I apologize, hearing off.
That's
Shot.
okay.
I realized that I was already convicted of this the moment I walked in the door because they hired you, not me.
Anything else? Anything else?
No.
All right, thank you. Any cross-exam, or redirect examination?
Hi, good morning again, Officer Holler. I just have a quick few questions for you. I heard you testify and get asked questions about the back page of the notice of exclusion form.
Yes,
So to your knowledge, just to reiterate, did the notice of exclusion form that you served Mr. Pickering based on your memory include this back page?
yes,
Okay, so even if it wasn't, uploaded into evidence, or that you do remember handing him the back page, correct?
yes, he had it in his hand. That's what he was looking at, I believe, is the.
And hearing officer, may the record reflect, I'm going to hand just a blank notice of ejection and exclusion form to the witness as well as the opposing party. And you please just take one moment to review that and let me know when you're ready, officer.
I'm ready.
Okay, so what is the document that I handed you?
It's a blank copy of the public property notice of exclusion, which is both a front and back page.
All right, and what information does the back page include?
It tells individual what tier 1 violations are, examples of, and tier 2 violations.
And does it include the notice of the right to appeal?
It has half the page contains information regarding appeals.
All right, and you remember that the exclusion notice you served included this back page?
Yes.
Okay, just moving to a quick other line of questioning very quickly. So are people always arrested at the time that they commit a rule or law violation?
No.
So it's common for people at a later date to be arrested for a crime that may have occurred a week or two earlier.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Pickering, any follow-up questions, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I apologize once again.
No, you're fine. Take your time.
Shoot. One of my questions is, okay, is it possible that the reason why it took so long for this whole exclusion, arrest thing to happen is because you guys were fishing, trying to find some way to charge me with something? That was one question. And,
No.
okay, my other question is, okay, in the scope of an exclusion, okay, hold on for a minute, Your Honor.
No, go
I
ahead.
need to
Yeah, go
grab
ahead.
one real quick and grab my glasses. Okay. On that blank copy that the gentleman to my right had handed you, can you read the very bottom of the front page?
In the bold, the violation may result in arrest and or prosecution for trespass.
Yes. Now, wouldn't that make this a trespass notice?
No, those are two different things.
How, when it's the same, it's the same ramification for a trespass?
Yes, I would agree with that. It is the same, it would be the same charge if you were given a trespass notice versus a notice of exclusion, yes.
Okay.
They're both, if you violate those, the criminal charge in that case would be trespassing.
Okay, now, isn't it true that this is a trespass. You guys just changed the names because you know you can't trespass somebody from public property without committing a crime.
No, we still have trespass notices as well, and I've served them regularly.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not doubting that if someone committed a crime. I'm saying this way you guys can violate people's rights and trespass them without committing a crime was the question.
Well,
Be-
based off of this,
Mr. Pickering, you're arguing with the witness.
No,
this is-
I was restating my question, ma'am.
So the question is argumentative. You're welcome to argue about that in your closing argument if you would like to. I'm going to have you move on with another question.
Oh, and did you swear an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America?
absolutely.
Okay. Well, do you believe that you're doing so by violating people's rights?
All right, that's argumentative
That's
as well.
a
That is
question.
argumentative. If you have no other, it's argumentative. If you have no other questions, you can have a seat. Officer, do you have the backside of the standards? Yeah, let me get that. I want to note that as Exhibit 4. Was the city asking to have this admitted? I guess there's a blank form. All right, thank you. That'll be admitted as Exhibit 4. All right. Any further questions of the officer? All right, thank you for your time. You're excused.
Thank you. You want to?
I'll take those, yeah, I'm gonna keep those as my copies and the originals will go to the clerk. Thank you, I appreciate it. Do you happen to have another copy of, I have the original blank form, I know Mr. Pickering has that as well, do you have a? Yeah. If you don't, I just want to make sure I have copies, I'm leaving the originals with the city clerk. If not, I'll make a copy upstairs. Okay, all right. So do you have any further witnesses? All right, Mr. Pickering, you can testify if you'd like to. That would be, that would happen right now. And you're welcome to stay seated if you want to testify. You just need to take an oath to tell the truth. And then Mr. Cash may ask you questions at the end of your testimony. Do you know if you'd like to testify today?
I believe I would, but may I ask for a brief recess because I have to use the restroom?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Why don't we be in recess for about 5 minutes?
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir.
Everything will be okay right there?
Yeah, it'll be just fine. I'm going to stay in the room, so thank you. All right, you ready to go?
Well, ma'am, I have a question for you first.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning, before we started proceedings, you had stated to me that this is an open hearing, that the public's welcome. But I was just informed that they're not letting anybody of the public in.
I don't know anything about that, so,
Well, because I have a friend that that wants to show me moral support, and she's here, but they won't let her in.
okay. What did we, yeah. She can come in, she can't record anything.
I believe that is Ms. Benson, who is currently excluded from this.
Oh, that's why she can't come in, she's excluded from the hearing. She's
Oh.
excluded from city council chambers, for a period of 45 days, that's why she can't come in.
Oh.
So, has nothing to do with a public hearing or not a public hearing.
Okay.
She's not allowed in because of that reason.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I was just, I didn't know
No,
that
it's a fair
part.
question, yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Okay.
You've decided you want to testify, is that right?
Well, yeah, because apparently that's the only way I'm gonna get my voice heard because.
Yeah, that's how you would get in evidence and any positions, factual positions, et cetera. So why don't you raise your right hand? Do hereby swear or affirm under penalty of perjury, the testimony you're about to give will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief.
I do.
All right, sir, thank you. You can have a seat. You're welcome to sit there. Your microphone is on. I will have you state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
My first name is Zephaniah. Would you like for me to spell that?
That's fine. You can spell your last name.
Okay. P, lowercase I, Ckering.
Thank you. You can proceed.
Thank you. Well, like I had asked the officers today, which is the other gentleman's witnesses, okay, is if I committed a crime on a certain date, why wasn't I arrested that date? Because, a crime's a crime. I'm already there. They're already there. And, I believe that because they all know me by name, because I had been going and doing video audits on them for a while and turning them in, that the city doesn't like me. And that they're, I forget that word, but it's where they kind of like, punish you for doing what's right because they don't like it. And the second officer, he stated that he's a law enforcement that sometimes enforces policy. Well, he's a law enforcement. He's not a policy or a feeling enforcement. So if someone's uncomfortable because I'm filming somebody and stuff, and that's something within themselves they need to deal with. Because that's my constitutional right to film in public. And especially government officials of all levels.
So this incident doesn't have anything to do with you filming anyone?
No, but this incident does have something to do with me being able to talk to the chief of police, who is supposed to be, by Constitution,
So
an
why don't you
elected
talk about
official.
that? Why don't you talk about that? Your position that you have the right to talk to the chief of police, since that's what this case is related to around your desire to talk to him, why don't you give me testimony related to that matter instead of filming, since you weren't.
Well, but I was filming my transaction as well. I film everything. I film my
Okay.
phone calls, all that.
Sure.
So,
There isn't any testimony in the record that you were arrested because you were filming or that the exclusion order was issued because you're filming. And it sounds like you wanted to make a point about your right to talk to the chief.
Right.
So why don't you talk about that?
Well, I mean, I'm not new to this. I'm 50 years old now. So I know how things are supposed to be. We're supposed to elect our sheriff. We're supposed to elect our mayor, so on and so forth. They're not supposed to be appointed. And because of everybody wanting to not adhere to the Constitution because it takes power away from them and gives it to us, the citizens. This is why all this is happening, because I've stated to them several times again, because over the last 7 years that I've lived in Englewood, I went up there several times and asked to speak to the chief of police himself personally, he or she. Never got to meet the person. I was always told, we don't have one. He's not here. We don't have one. He's not here. Time and time again, I have video recording of it, of being told that. So when I go up there this time and I'm told, well, he's over in this other state waiting to move here to become the new chief, I know that there has to be a chief, even if it's just someone appointed temporarily, to come down and speak to me, because federal law says that every government official is to be held accountable, including officers. So if I'm talking to sergeants and lieutenants and captains, showing them videos of their subordinates violating my rights, okay, I would think that they would want to try to keep the city of Englewood out of litigation and not get the city of Englewood and the people of Englewood a lawsuit that they have to pay for it, because the city's not going to pay for it. They're going to charge the taxpayers. That's why all this is being hush-hush. Nothing's being streamed. There's no cameras allowed ever, because they don't want the general public or the country to know that this is how they're running it here. And I know what I'm talking about. Like I said, I have case law from the 10th District Court of Appeals, which covers Colorado. You know, saying that freedom of speech, freedom of the First Amendment and stuff is protected, and everything that it covers is protected. The United States Supreme Court, I forget the case, but it said that you cannot criminalize the Constitution of the United States of America. But that's what Englewood is doing here. They're trying to criminalize people's constitutional rights so they don't exercise them. And in the long run, the city attorney, their job first and foremost is to keep the city out of litigation by giving them, hey, hold on a minute, you can't do this. It's not my job to come up here and educate them about what the Supreme Court said or what the Constitution says. They're supposed to know that. That's why I ask everybody, have you sworn an oath to the Constitution of the United States of America? Because if you did, you should know what it says, unless you just blindly take oaths and not know the meaning of them. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying you directly, ma'am. I don't
you're
want you,
fine. Go ahead.
you know, but this is why I ask people this. You know, that's why I've asked the officers today that. That's why I asked the attorney in the last hearing that, you know, because if you took the oath, you should know what it says. Not just say, oh yeah, I swear an oath to this. Just like I know that they had a closed forum for the chief to be sworn in, which is unconstitutional. It was employees only. And I mean, this needs to stop. I mean, you know, and I understand that you rule in the favor of the city of Englewood because that's who hired you and that's who you're working for. But at the same time, the Constitution also says that if you're a judge of any court, you're to be 100% non-biased, and you're to take the facts of law into consideration, not someone's opinion, not someone's policies. You're supposed to take what the law says. And the only reason why these exclusions exist, minus the one from the police station, is due to videotaping. The reason why I got the one at the police station for, that we're here for today, is for freedom of speech, because they didn't like what I was telling them, because I told them they are public servants, they need to do things in a timely fashion. I told them from get-go, I was in a hurry because I had other appointments I needed to take care of other stuff, and they wanted to continuously put me on hold. Well, there's multiple dispatches up there. So one of them could be trying to help me, and I noticed that the gentleman to my right didn't play none of the audio or the cameras or nothing like that, no recording from the phone calls or nothing. Okay, I noticed he didn't want to submit that into evidence. Why is that? Could it be because everything I'm saying would be verified with these recordings? Like, for example, me asking to speak to the chief, I was told that there's one there, or that they have a chief now, but he's out of the state, but there's an acting chief. And I asked to speak to him. Oh, he's not here either. He's on vacation. Well, why is it there's never a chief around when someone needs to speak to one, but yet law says there must be, and that they must be non-biased. They must have 100% transparency. All government officials, judges, everybody, all the way down to the local meter maids, all the way down to the city road workers must have 100% transparency when they're in contract with any city or state. But yet, nobody wants to admit that they're public servants. They're here to serve the public. They're not here to serve the city. They're not here to serve the mayor. They're not here to serve the city attorney. They're here to serve the citizens, the tax-paying citizens of this city. Just like you saw in the last video on the last hearing, how I was sitting in that pew minding my own business until I was addressed by the mayor. And you know for a fact, just like I do, that he does stuff like that and then gets up and calls a recess because he wants to violate my constitutional rights. And he's doing that because now he's going to criminalize my constitutional rights. That's why I have 2 Arapahoe County court dates next month. And then by you, ma'am, not adhering to the Constitution and not adhering to my evidence and my questioning the witnesses, even though I got the attorney last time to admit that policy doesn't trump law, but yet I was excluded for a policy. And then you hear the officer today say yes, an exclusion on his face is a trespass. The United States Supreme Court said you cannot trespass somebody's eyes, so therefore you cannot trespass someone's camera, and you cannot trespass somebody from public property unless they committed a crime. But yet, you sat up there last time, ma'am, and allowed that to happen. You allowed them to trespass
Sir,
me.
here's how this works. If you disagree with my order, you have the right to appeal my decision to the district court for Arapahoe County. There's a deadline to do that. I can't give you legal advice on how that works, but you have the absolute right to appeal my order and my decision. That's why the decision is in writing. You would need to get a transcript of the recording and file that appeal with the district court. So you can move on from any discussion about what happened at the last hearing. I need to focus on the events for this hearing.
Well, I only
Sir,
brought-
please don't interrupt me. Just because we're recording this and it can't record 2 different voices. I am to decide whether this was a lawful order and if the exclusion is appropriate. So I need you to focus on just what you were talking about with you having the right to talk to the chief and your attempt to reach that person, et cetera. So I've taken notes about all that testimony. Is there anything else about those events on October 18th that you'd like me to consider?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd like you to consider all of it. I would like you to consider the fact that I only brought up what happened last time to show what's going to happen this time is you're going to find that they had legal recourse to trespass me from a public property without committing a crime, because if I committed a crime on the 17th or 18th, I would have been arrested the 17th or 18th. They did not lock me up and arrest me, even though I was on premises on that date. It's not like they had to come get me.
Okay, anything else?
Well, you was telling me about how I have a right to appeal your decision. I also have a right to due process in the court of law.
Right, this is an administrative hearing.
It's still a hearing.
Absolutely. Let me finish. This is an administrative hearing. You have, as I indicated, and you are exercising your right to testify in support of your appeal. The hearing officer has the obligation to limit repetitive evidence and testimony. And I have heard your testimony that you have these rights, that you have the right to appeal, that you have the right to talk to the chief. Is there anything additional to that information that you've provided that you would like to add?
Well, only that, I feel that you should find in my favor be due to the fact that, that I didn't commit a crime.
Okay,
I've proven that because I wasn't arrested on the 18th of October like they said that I committed a crime on. And they waited until when? Let's see, the 23rd, almost 11 days later, to come up with a crime for me exercising my right. And, plus on top of that, they maliciously, which means intentionally, kept putting me on hold when I'm trying to take care of legit business there at a public building with public employees. And because this person's feelings got hurt, now all of a sudden I committed a crime almost 11 days later? No, that's not how this judicial system works. So, I guess I'm done with that, but
all right. Any cross-examination? All right, thank you. All right, City, have a closing argument? You're welcome to stay seated if you'd like, whatever you're comfortable with, that's fine. I totally understand.
Hearing officer, as introduced, my name is Nathan Cash, and I'm here today representing the city of Englewood in this matter of the exclusion of Mr. Pickering that was issued on October 23rd, 2024. On October 18th, Mr. Pickering went to the Englewood Police Department. He occupied the dispatch line, calling repeatedly at least 44 times, asking to speak with the chief of police. Through this violates the standards of behavior as indicated by the violation of the applicable state law noted on the notice of exclusion. Further, Mr. Pickering has previously been excluded from city property, which would also support this exclusion. The burden of proof the city has today is to demonstrate by a preponderance of the evidence.
objection.
Sir, he's making argument. He didn't object to your argument, so he gets to make his argument, and then you'll have a chance briefly to do the same, all right?
Well, but you objected to me bringing up what happened last time in our last hearing, but yet he just brought it up that because I was found guilty of that one.
So this is why that's relevant?
Because it's the city doing it. Because it's the city doing it.
Sir, quit arguing. So this notice of ejection exclusion, the length of time that you're excluded from any city property is due in part to whether there are prior exclusions, and that's on this form right here. So he had the officer testify that, it's relevant argument, and he's now talking about the burden of proof, so I'm gonna allow him to continue.
But it wasn't relevant when I was bringing it up.
Because you were talking about what happened at the city council meeting in the prior incident, and incident isn't about the city council meeting. I wanted you to speak to me about what happened when you were attempting to get a hold of the chief of police, which is relevant and which you testified about very thoroughly and gave me all of your arguments, so I have those. That's why what
But
you
you-
were trying, that's why your statement was an argument. All right, Mr. Cash, you can proceed.
The city has the burden today to demonstrate by preponderance of the evidence that Mr. Pickering was issued the exclusion notice on the 23rd, that he committed the underlying rule violation that was indicated, and that the issuance, duration, and conditions of the exclusion notice are lawful. And this is pursuant to Englewood Municipal Code. The exclusion notice itself indicated that Mr. Pickering violated the criminal law codified at Colorado Revised Statute 18.8.102, which is entitled Obstructing Government Operations. Subsection 1 states, quote, "A person commits obstructing government operations if he intentionally obstructs, impairs, or hinders the performance of a governmental function by a public servant, by using or threatening to use violence, force, or physical interference or obstacle." Now, we are not arguing today that Mr. Pickering was violent or threatened to use violence. However, his conduct on the 18th did present a physical interference and obstacle to the lawful duties of the Englewood Police Department dispatchers. As is indicated in Exhibit 1, the incident report, as well as testimony you have heard today, Mr. Pickering picked up the dispatcher line calling at least 44 times. The dispatchers repeatedly put him on hold and let him know that this was not an emergency situation he needed to be calling about. However, he continued to call. Additionally, as indicated through Exhibit 1, there were only 2 dispatchers at the time, and over 9 emergency calls were made during the time period in which Mr. Pickering was occupying at least one of the dispatcher lines. Thus, he was told, and continued to do so, he was obstructing government operations by presenting a physical interference or obstacle through occupying this line. Further, the issuance, duration, and conditions of the exclusion notice are lawful. As you can see through Exhibit 2, which is the exclusion notice was issued in writing. It was signed by an authorized official. You heard testimony from Officer Holler that he is authorized to issue exclusion notices, and as the Englewood Municipal Code states, police officers are authorized officials. Further, it includes the date it was issued, as well as the date of the original incident, the term, which does not exceed 90 days and is compliant with the city's own policy. You heard testimony from both witnesses today that Mr. Pickering committed a Tier 2 violation, which would support a 90-day exclusion. Additionally, even if he had not committed a Tier 2 violation of the standards of behavior, Mr. Pickering violated or has had a previous exclusion notice, which would support a 90-day exclusion. Further, the location of the exclusion is specified as being the Englewood Police Department, which you heard testimony is where the event took place. Further, Mr. Pickering is allowed to enter the police department as is necessary to conduct legitimate city business. The identification of a specific rule, as well as the notification of Mr. Pickering's right and process to appeal, were provided and served on the backside of the exclusion form. You heard testimony from Officer Holler, who issued the exclusion notice, that the backside includes that information. Additionally, while Mr. Pickering was asking questions of Officer Holler, he indicated that the exclusion notice he had received had 2 sides. Further, there is a brief statement specifying which criminal law Mr. Pickering violated. And it says it has a trespass notice at the bottom, which is the consequences if Mr. Pickering fails to comply. Thus, by a preponderance of the evidence, the city has shown that the issuance and duration of the exclusion notice are proper. Briefly touching on the conditions of the exclusion notice. Mr. Pickering is not being excluded for anything to do with his free speech rights, anything to do with even asking to speak with the chief of police, or honestly, the substance of what he was saying to the dispatch line, other than it was not relevant to an emergency situation. Mr. Pickering is being excluded purely for obstructing government by occupying a dispatch line at a time when there were limited dispatchers repeatedly over the course of an hour for a non-emergency situation. This does not implicate the First Amendment in any way. Additionally, I would like to note a police department is not the kind of forum which the government typically opens for expressive conduct to begin with. However, this is not why Mr. Pickering was excluded. If Mr. Pickering was filming, which I do not have knowledge of, this also is not a factor in supporting this notice of exclusion. Thus, there are no First Amendment concerns with this exclusion, hearing officer. So in conclusion, the city today has met its burden, showing that by a preponderance of the evidence, Mr. Pickering was properly issued an exclusion notice, he committed a specified rule violation, and that the issuance, duration, and conditions of the exclusion are lawful pursuant to Englewood Municipal Code, as well as constitutional law. Further, hearing officer, even if you find that there was some sort of error with the exclusion notice, the remedy pursuant to Englewood Municipal Code would be for you to modify the exclusion notice to bring it into compliance with the law and not to reverse the exclusion altogether. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pickering, anything in closing, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to.
Is that microphone on? Why don't you turn it? Okay. There you go.
Oh, okay.
You got it already.
Okay. I'm just gonna back up a little bit.
Yeah, I know, it's loud. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, okay, for one, the city didn't prove nothing, because if they was gonna prove something, they would have brought the video and audio recording that showed exactly what was said on both ends, okay? And if I'm sitting there saying, okay, like for example, the dispatch, is emergency, click. I don't even have a chance to say yes or no. So then I got called back, you know, and these are games that they want to play with me. So that way I will keep calling back. So this way they can find something to trump up on me to have a crime, because I've turned them in before. I've got them investigated before. And that's why earlier I said this is to punish me for standing up for my rights and knowing what the law says, because they want to keep us ignorant so they can tell us to do whatever they want us to do, follow, you know, their policies, even though they're not laws, and, you know, and they expect us to just shut up and sit down. Well, I'm not the one that's going to just shut up and sit down, because I'm willing to take this to the United States Supreme Court, sir, if need be, because of the fact that, you know, there is violations here to the Constitution due to the fact that I tried to go into records, like I tried to state earlier, to get them to help me, and all they want to do is direct me to the phone out in the foyer. Well, I've told them several times, my tax-paying dollars pays for those ladies to be in the records office, and it's a records and information office is what it says. It doesn't say police records and information. It says police, or it says records and information. So therefore, if I come in and I need a record, help me get that record. If I need information, give me that information. That's what you're getting paid for by tax-paying dollars. But they keep wanting to justify, oh, well, they're not city employees. They're regular citizens. No, they're working in a government building, getting paid by government funds. That makes them government officials. That means that they are to help the public. And they don't want to, they get mad because I remind them all the time that they are public servants. Their job exists solely, 100%, just to help the public. Not to help the city, not to be the mayor's personal army, or the city manager's personal army, because the Constitution speaks about that. Okay, and because I've went in there and because I videoed them on the streets and stuff like that, went in, talked to internal affairs, gave them video and stuff of what their officers are doing out there on the streets to violate not just my rights, but other people's rights. They don't like that, so therefore they want to try to punish me. The city mayor, I've done the same with him. I've recorded him several times. And so he doesn't like being videoed because he doesn't want the general public to see him violating people's rights. And, you know, and like I said, you know, I have a constitutional right to due process in any kind of a court of law when law is being questioned on whether it was legal, whether it was lawful, whatever, okay? And, you know, and the Constitution says that that judge is to be 100% non-biased and not just always go with the prosecutor or with the city or with the state. It also says that the state cannot be a victim. There must actually be a person who is victimized, and there has to be damages. That's what the Constitution of the United States of America says, ma'am.
All right, thank
Well-
you. Any rebuttal from the city? And I can take notice of that. I have that order myself. All right, I will issue a written order that will occur early next week. Mr. Pickering, we will mail that to you, the address that we have on record. Is that sufficient, sir?
3651 South Cherokee Street, apartment 6.
Let me make sure here. Yes, that's 80110. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, we will email it to that location. So, all right, if there's nothing further, we'll be in recess. Thank you.
Okay, and now,